Welcome, everybody, to the week 15 iteration of Nerding Out with Nic Bodiford. I am your host, Nic Bodiford. The date is December 12th, 2022. We're going to be doing the standard game-by-game recap podcast, excluding Monday Night Football. And we will touch on any and all potential waiver wire pickups for the week. Had a great week last week. I hope y'all are reading what I'm putting out there, listening to what I'm throwing down. Had an awesome conversation with Jax Falcone over at the Undrafted podcast. That's part of the Undroppables podcast network. I believe they release on that thread, but he's also got his own at the Undrafted. But the Undroppables website is fantastic for anyone interested in dynasty content. I hold no one in my mind over Jax. Great guy, great analyst. All right, let's get this started. So Thursday Night Football, notes from this game, pretty short and sweet. Las Vegas Raiders 16 at Los Angeles Rams 17. The only thing I want to touch on here is Baker Mayfield. I don't buy it. I think in a super flex format, you could add him. You know, starting quarterbacks should be rostered in super flex, but I will not be starting Baker Mayfield in a 12-team redraft format, be that a home league or high stakes. So for those of you who were wooed by him, check yourself there. We know who Baker is right now, or has always been. I will not be starting him. New York Jets 12 at Buffalo Bills 20. Notes from this one on the New York City side of things, not the Buffalo side, New York City side of things. Michael Carter. So the backfield, it looks like it's been whittled down to just Michael Carter and Zonovan Knight. Carter played a significant number of the passing down snaps. Knight I may have had a couple, but that was Carter's role, which we kind of expected. I mean, we talk about Zonovan Knight as being on the Joe Mixon meal plan here, where it's a lot of early down work, some work in scoring position, and they'll send him out on routes on first and second down. And to this point, Zonovan Knight has been a really efficient receiver on a per route basis. A little bit of a downtick this week in that regard, but yeah, no Ty Johnson, no James Robinson. So moving forward, I think that we're going to be starting Zonovan Knight as I think he's fine in the right build. I think he's fine as an RB2. If you went 0 RB, I think RB2 totally fine. Most formats, he might end up being an RB3 or a flex play, but given the way that injuries and everything have played out, would not surprise me if Zonovan is your RB2, just even in like a regular old 12-team redraft league. He's running very well through contact. Michael Carter, I think he holds PPR value. It'd be great if Zonovan had his passing down role, but he doesn't. So Carter, I think he's a PPR RB 37 is maybe where I'll have him ranked. Now we don't have any buys this week, so full slate of games, full slate of teams, etc. I think it'll probably be hard to get Carter inside the top 36. We'll see where he lands. Working on rankings right now. Only other note from the Jets. Oh, well, actually, Mike White, he had an MRI done, and I don't think we've heard anything from that, but it sounds like he's going to be able to play. It was at ribs oblique area. I will be starting Mike White where I need to. Definitely in super flex formats. I think that he's still in that top 12 conversation, albeit like back end. Right now I have him ranked as, so this is the thing. Right now I have Mike White ranked as the quarterback 10. They're playing Detroit. Cakewalk defense, fantastic offense. So I think that White will stay. I think he'll stay slinging it. On the Buffalo side, okay, so the backfield, this was a huge bummer. Buffalo did play on Thursday last week. And so I hear you if you want to make the case, well, it was a short week. Maybe that's why they saddled up the rookie and played him well ahead of Devin Singletary, i.e. it's a short week. Well, that doesn't really make sense because they played on Thanksgiving the week before, on Thursday the week before. So they had a full 7 days to get Devin Singletary right if they needed to. I don't know what the deal is here, but it's Cook and Singletary. They split passing down work. Cook did take the lead when in scoring position, took the lead role in scoring position. So I think that he has moved ahead as the 1A. I was talking about this with Josh Larkey on the 33rd Team's Sunday morning live stream. I think that he has that 1A role. I was hoping that he had more, but I think it's the 1A role just by the thinnest of margins. Should you be starting him? Man, I mean, it's really going to come down to your team and matchup. I don't think that this is necessarily a given. They're playing Miami. That defensive front, it's got a little bit better with Bradley Chubb there, but that's kind of more so a pass rush thing. We'll see where Cook lands. Cook is still the preferred back for me in Buffalo, but he doesn't have the role that I'd hoped he would. Dawson Knox, I think that you can do worse at tight end 1, but it's not great. Cleveland Browns 10, at Cincinnati Bengals 23. Notes from the Cleveland side of things are that Deshaun Watson is averaging 6.5 rush attempts per game. Very, very good number. He played much better this week than he did in the week prior. And I think that week 15, I think that it would be appropriate to start him. I advised against that last week just because he was awfully bad in week 13. Baltimore is a bizarre defense where they're giving up a lot of yards, but it's like not necessarily 2 wide receivers. Now, okay, with that said, Kareem Hunt has suddenly been able to earn targets a lot more efficiently than he was with Jacoby Brissett at the helm. So I think that I'm going to tentatively have Watson. Man, right now I've got him as a mid-tier quarterback too. I'm going to have to keep working on this. I think it's appropriate to start him, but there are still guys that we've been rolling with all year that I personally will probably rank ahead of him. I think I might be in the minority on that one though. On the Cincinnati side, so T. Higgins suffered a hamstring strain in practice on Thursday. Friend of the show, Edwin Porras, tweeted out, I think it was something like 33% of players who show up midweek with an injury miss, meaning basically 2/3 of the guys who will show up in the injury report midweek end up playing. And that data came from 2020 and 2021, if I remember correctly, but you can go check out his timeline. That made me feel a lot better about T. Higgins. He suited up and he played Friday. I was nervous about him because I don't like soft tissue injuries, but the data was there and it was good process. So I kept T. Higgins in my top 12 wide receiver 1 rankings. And I think that was the proper process, but I don't understand. I guess it just comes down to the coaching staff wanting to be tricky with the defense, but anyway, the story goes that he felt something in warmups and he wasn't going to be on the field. He wasn't going to play. And then he snuck onto the field for a 3rd down conversion attempt. And the coaching staff didn't even know it. I don't expect T. Higgins to play this week. He just suffered a setback. That's not great. Wide receivers average 2.6 games missed due to hamstring strains per Adam Hutchison's injury index. So again, I think T. Higgins, starting him was the right process. I think the data supported that. Now we have to be Bayesian, readjust. I don't think that T. Higgins is going to be available this week. And if they do call him active, the re-injury rate per Adam is 15.2%. It's on the higher end of the re-injury rates, but 15%, we're still rocking with a pretty safe margin there, 85. So we're just going to have to monitor closely. If he's able to get a full participation in, especially on Friday, I would feel very good about starting him, but monitor the practice reports. Slot receiver Tyler Boyd dislocated his finger. I was talking to Doctor of Physical Therapy Jeff Mueller of Destination Devi. Double check that. I get him confused, his outlet confused with DL. No, okay, yes, he is Destination Devi and writes at DLF. So yeah, I was talking to Dr. Jeff, and his prognostication for Tyler Boyd is that he returns in either week 16 or 17. He does not think that he plays this week. Jeff's pretty good about this, and he can be kind of more on the aggressive side of projecting when players will return. So if he's telling me it's another week out, then I'm thinking that that's probably a pretty safe bet. I wrote up the backfield usage for Cincinnati over at the 33rd team. Article is called 5 Things We Learned in Week 14 or Fantasy Football Week 13, 5 Things We Learned. Basically, Mixon, he kept his early down workload. He ran routes on early downs as he has been. Samaje Perine ended up basically just operating as the passing down running back. What was interesting about that is that they healthy scratched Chris Evans. So Chris Evans, he'd been operating as the number 3 running back on the depth chart. He's a pass catching specialist. He was a healthy scratch for the first time in his NFL career. So that is noteworthy. Travion Williams was active behind those 2 guys. And for the per route data and all that stuff, I'll ask you guys, go give me the clicks, go check out the stuff over at 33rd team. And there you can see the full breakdown. But I'm just double checking here. Yeah. Mixon, does not have a passing down role. That is significant, which frankly, it probably more so impacts Samaje Perine as being an RB3, probably a little bit better than Michael Carter this week, especially with the wide receiver injuries. But who replaced whom? Who replaced whom? Trenton Irwin was the T. Higgins replacement. Trent Taylor was the Tyler Boyd replacement. Don't recall who Cincinnati is playing this week, but we'll want to look at the perimeter versus slot receiver matchups to see if one of these guys stands out. Trent Taylor, I think he was a little bit more efficient than Irwin, but Irwin has been more relevant as of late for a longer period of time. Houston Texans 23, almost upset Dallas Cowboys 27. So, man, notes here are no fun. Davis Mills, who was already having a bummer year, is now being subbed out in scoring position for Jeff Driscoll. Dameon Pierce. Dr. David Chow has identified or believes Dameon Pierce suffered an inversion ankle sprain. Yeah, by video, Pierce appeared to suffer an inversion ankle sprain when his left leg was landed on by a Cowboy, blah, blah, blah. You can check out Dr. Chow's work at Sports Injury Central. That is sicscore.com. He's got the info there. He believes that Pierce is going to be active or should be available in week 15. That said, the average missed time for inversion ankle sprains is 1.7 games for running backs. So I think that this is a little bit dicey. Keep in mind, they did sign Eno Benjamin. Just before Tuesday waiver wire, claims process, be monitoring what Lovie Smith says about who will carry the early down load. Will that be Rex Burkhead or will that be Eno Benjamin? It probably means an increase in passing down work regardless or just more work for Rex Burkhead because they trust him. Eno could be an interesting add in very deep leagues though. Okay. And slot receiver, Chris Moore, he has been a surprisingly solid target earner in Houston. Now, so has Nico Collins, and we see him the other day catching 3 of 10 passes for 35 yards and a touchdown. It's not a great offense, but Chris Moore, I think he's a dynasty name people should be paying attention to because he's been producing as a slot receiver. It would be really difficult, I think, to emotionally start him in the redraft playoffs here. But if you were desperate at wide receiver, add him, monitor Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks' health. I kind of wonder if Brandon Cooks is not actually hurt and if he's just, they're amicably letting him not play. It's a little weird there. Regarding Dallas, two things worth mentioning here. T.Y. Hilton has been signed. So I think that's kind of an indictment on one, James Washington, who was activated this week after being on injured reserve with a broken foot all year. So they basically saw him and went, nope, won't cut it.
Also kind of an indictment on Michael Gallup. And I know, check out Ian Harditz's stuff at PFF. I think there was a sheesh situation here where Michael Gallup missed a touchdown, but Gallup, he's been kind of TD dependent since he's returned. It's, a little shaky. Odell Beckham Jr. is also, he's been touring the facility and everything, but word is that he's not going to play regular season. And so Jerry Jones has kind of been trying to negotiate through the media. Point is, I think Hilton signing is kind of damning for all three of those guys. But do I want to add T.Y. Hilton in like a 12-team league? No, I don't. If I have a crazy luxury situation or I'm like desperate at wide receiver, I guess I could see it, but I'm skeptical that he will be productive. Minnesota Vikings 23 at Detroit Lions 34. Notes from the Minnesota game are to be reading the DFS cheat sheet at Pro Football Focus. We had a really good week with the DFS cheat sheet once again, and as well as the wide receiver cornerbacks matchup. Wide receiver cornerback matchups to target and avoid. Thielen, I believe he was in the wide receiver cornerback matchup article. We've yet to see how things finish because we got one guy playing here in the wide receiver in the Monday Night Football game, but 4 of the 5 target wide receivers hit this week. The matchups to target hit, all scored touchdowns. And then the DFS cheat sheet, we're going to get to that as we go on, but the DFS cheat sheet just went nuts, and that's top 5 recommended plays for DFS purposes. And that I write that at Pro Football Focus. So anyway, we'll touch on that as we go along. But Adam Thielen, this was a predictable one for him to hit. He did it. Hell yeah. Detroit Lions. Seems like DeAndre Swift did in fact suffer an ankle re-aggravation in week 13 because week 14 was a big old snooze fest bummer. I'm probably going to be rolling strong with him again, but it's just Justin Jackson. I love Justin Jackson, so I'm happy for him. Monitor the news on DeAndre Swift. I wrote up Jameson Williams. I think it's 8 routes run so far through 2 games. I really like what I'm seeing from the way that they're deploying him. They put him on the field. He is part of the game plan. He is featured. I think he scored a 41-yard touchdown on his first target. It was so in week 13. Well, I wrote this up at the 33 team, so you go read the details there. But Jameson Williams, he's been extremely efficient in both as a target earner and just on a per route basis. Love to see it. I think so. He had 2 routes run and I think 6, and I'm optimistic that he will at least double that this week. Can you start him? No, not if it's just double. But what we saw with DeAndre Swift was Dan Campbell, he was eager to get him in there, and then he got nervous for a few games. And then once Swift started to prove it again, week 13, we talked about this. He had a full-time workload, led the team in carries, worked in scoring position, led the backfield in scoring position. He was stellar on passing down. So once they see it, they believe it. Maybe they'll get a little bit scared with Swift, but it's a different player. I think Jameson Williams is going to have a big outing before the fantasy football regular season or playoffs, end. Will it be this week? We're going to monitor the news. Follow my Twitter feed. I'll keep you guys updated. But there's a clear role for him as the field stretcher, and that is sick. Okay, DJ Chark, he's been great. He was in the wide receiver cornerback matchup to target, so we love that. I'm happy to see him succeeding. I think Josh Reynolds, maybe if you were like just checking breaking news here, I don't think it's relevant for the podcast right now, but Reynolds, I think there's a case to be made that he might be able, maybe he's relevant in an underdog draft if you guys are doing a postseason thing. But I guess I don't. Yeah, maybe the Lions are not going to make. Well, probably not. But anyway, Reynolds, he's more of a best ball asset right now. Philadelphia Eagles 48 at New York Giants 22. Devontae Smith, he was in the wide receiver cornerbacks matchups to target and avoid article. That was a lot of fun. Great seeing him do his thing. Grant Calcaterra, tight end. I've been saying for a while, and he's been making me look like a fool. I've been saying that I think he is the preferred pass catching tight end. Now, over Jack Stoll. Now, Dallas Goedert, word is that he's going to be returning soon, so this might all be for naught, but I'm liking what I'm seeing from Grant Calcaterra enough that if you need a tight end in Dynasty to stash, I think he's a worthwhile prospect. Could he flop? Yes. Are the odds in that favor? Actually, probably yes. But I'm liking what I'm seeing a little bit here. New York Giants, on the New York Giants side of things, the running backs. Okay, I broke down what's going on in the backfield behind Saquon Barkley. So if you guys want to know Gary Brightwell versus Matt Breida, it's all there. I think Brightwell would be the lead rusher. I think that Matt Breida would be the passing down specialist. Richie James is in the concussion protocol. Dan Bellinger, I believe it was a ribs injury. I think Bellinger will play. I don't think that Richie James will play because NFL wide receivers, per Adam Hutchinson's injury index, miss 1.7 games on average. What does this mean for the wide receivers? Kenny Golladay is probably coming back into the lineup, but I think he's going to stay on the outside. I think that we will see an increased slot role for Darius Slayton, perhaps significantly. Isaiah Hodgins, we talked about him. We were on him last week. Hodgins, I think he'll largely stay on the perimeter. We might see like a full game of Darius Slayton operating as the primary slot receiver. And that would be really cool. But anyway, I think that Slayton is going to be a wide receiver 2 this week. Hodgins, don't sleep on Hodgins. Monitor all news, but I think that Hodgins may be able to be relevant. If not in 12-team redraft, then in like 14 or 16 team. Baltimore Ravens, 16. At Pittsburgh Steelers, 14. Okay, so both of the quarterbacks here suffered concussions. The only notes that I have for this whole game are quarterbacks average 0.9 games missed due to concussions. I think both Huntley and Pickett will miss. We've already talked about all the other players. Najee Harris probably not going to be a starting running back. I think that George Pickens is Jermaine Kearse. Pat Freiermuth is awesome. Now, what I will direct you to is, again, the work of the 33rd team to go read about the Baltimore Ravens backfield. J.K. Dobbins does not look healthy, but he's killing it. I spoke with Jeff Mueller via Twitter, and his hypothesis is that the limp is more so mechanical and he just needs more rehab, not a pain issue. Now, does he get an elevated risk of injury? Yeah, probably. But I don't think that was him limping around and that this is going to be a oh no, he's, hurt or something like that. Like, I think he's on the right track. It's just, he's got to regain his range of motion, get strength in the area again. So I'm optimistic about J.K. Dobbins. And I believe that they have the Cleveland Browns this week, which are a real bad run defense team. So go read that piece. Jacksonville Jaguars 36 at Tennessee Titans 22. It looks like Travis Etienne is limited by the foot, and that sucks. Can you bench him? I don't think so. I think you should keep rolling him out there, but it's really friggin' rough. Zay Jones, boom bust. Hopefully you got him on underdog. Redraft, I think he's probably somewhere around wide receiver 50 in the weekly rankings. We'll see where he ends up falling, but I think that's probably where I'll have him right now. Evan Ingram, just, boom busty it is, but hey, at least he can do it. And so if he gives you a donut this week, at least you had him going off last week. Trevor Lawrence, I think, is still a buy low in Dynasty, and I know that that's crazy because he just threw for like 386 yards. Dude looks like he's the real friggin' deal, and he's getting Calvin Ridley next year. I would go buy Trevor Lawrence, and of course Jax Falcone called this that he. Anyway, you can go listen to him in his words. We talked about that on the show, but Trevor Lawrence. Probably a lot. Dynasty has probably been too low on him, given everything that he survived last year. Okay, Tennessee Titans. This was it. We have been talking about Chigoziem Okonkwo for 8 weeks at least. Probably it maybe have been 10. Either way, the dude's been a total machine on a per route basis. It was a lot of fun to see. I hope you guys all got to go see the David Tyree 2-point conversion where he caught it on the helmet. Hoping that Treylon Burks will be able to return this week. Wide receivers average 1.7 games missed due to concussions. So he has a chance. Now, Are the odds in his favor? No, by 4/10 of a likelihood point. They're not, but it's possible that Treylon Burks is able to return. It would be really good to see him back. Also, something to note here, they played the Jacksonville Jaguars. We, been talking about this for a long time. Seattle and Arizona have their reputations as the terrible tight end defenses, but the Jacksonville Jaguars, the trio that they have there, Devin Lloyd. So Devin Lloyd and Chad Muma are two rookies. They're both really crazy bad. Devin Lloyd was benched for Muma this week, but they were in a 3-4 most of the time. So they got their 2 inside linebackers. The other guy, Foyesade Oluwoken, I think he's a 5th-year veteran. I have to double check that. But anyway, he's got awful in coverage too. So Austin Hooper even got in on the fun. He crushed it. Now I'm not taking anything away from Okonkwo. Okonkwo has been trending toward an explosive performance for a long time now, which is why we've been advocating you guys pick him up. But this was it. This was the big time smash week. Everything came together. We'll reassess this week. I will actually probably still be starting Okonkwo in 12-team formats this week. He, you can go read about him in the DFS cheat sheet from last week. I also have free data available on him. If you just go search for it on the 33rd Teams website, dude has been top 3 on a per route basis, yards per reception, after contact, etc. Just a friggin' monster. So this was not a fluke for Okonkwo. Hooper just took advantage of the situation. All right, Derrick Henry, good increase in passing down work. Now, on the season as a whole, relevant here. Dontrell Hilliard, gonna miss this week. I think it was a neck injury. I believe he was carted off the field. I'm gonna pull this up because the Tennessee backfield has a couple of pieces of news here. So Dontrell Hilliard will not play. They're already saying he's not going to play in week 15. It was a neck injury. Now, Hassan Haskins suffered a hip injury on Friday of week 13. Didn't play week 13. He registered 3 straight limited participation designations on week 14. Still didn't play. Limited, he's probably going to be a full go. Hassan Haskins will probably be the number 2. He'll probably take passing down work, but this is why, and I talked about this with Jax, because he was on this guy, and he never said that he would be the next great thing, but I learned this name from him, Julius Chestnut. This is why we like these guys who have fantastic profiles coming out of college. Shout out to Chestnut's Sacred Heart University. We got Derrick Henry healthy, but the passing game specialist in Hilliard is injured. We don't know if Haskins will return. I think that he will return. We don't know that, though. So is it possible that in week 15, Julius Chestnut is the number 2 running back in Tennessee? It is. Is it likely? No, probably not. It'll probably be Hassan Haskins. But this dude, he profiles as a dual threat. If Haskins can't play and Derrick Henry, for whatever reason, misses time, you need to monitor the news closely here, because if Julius Chestnut is going to be the number 2 on a given week, oh man, I'm not saying you'd start him, but that is a must roster type of player. Okay. Moving on. Kansas City Chiefs 34 at Denver Broncos 28. Notes from this one on the Kansas City side, Isaiah Pacheco, very efficient receiver. Loved to see it. That's great. The Clyde Edwards-Helaire absence has created a nice 2-man backfield. Jerick McKinnon, he did a really good job scoring on that broken play last week. The box score will lie to you a little bit just because it was like a 50-yard touchdown. But Jerick McKinnon needs to be rostered in 100% of all formats. On the Denver side of things, I believe that Greg Dulcich is a real deal long-term tight end for the Denver Broncos. As far as the Denver running back situation goes, so Mike Boone is out. Sounds like for the rest of the year. Latavius Murray was already empty calories. I wrote in my notes, he's just an ice house tall boy. He gets the job done, but it is brutal. Marlon Mack runs in here and immediately takes passing down work. God. It is the Latavius Murray situation. he was already not palatable. I mean, like the volume was there, but he was really not palatable. Now it's going to be really difficult if Marlon Mack, who's not efficient either, if he's going to be getting passing down work. I think Latavius Murray will probably be like the running back 38 entering this week. We'll see. We'll monitor the news, but the offense is now probably going to be led by Brett Ripien because Russell Wilson is now in the concussion protocol. Again, 0.99 games missed on average by quarterbacks who suffer concussion. So I don't know that this offense is really going to be going anywhere. I don't trust Marlon Mack, but if he's going to be taking work away from Latavius Murray, then he is just a game day. And if you don't know what game day is, go look it up. I think it's 7-Eleven's brand of beer. Carolina Panthers 30 at Seattle Seahawks 24. Chuba Hubbard needs to be rostered everywhere. Shout out to Mr. Brian Drake. We talked about this a few weeks ago on the Fantasy Football Hustle. We actually thought that Chuba Hubbard was going to be the lead guy. Then he got hurt. Donta Foreman was playing really well, though. Hubbard's been a problem. I think he had 17 carries 2 weeks ago before their bye, and then I think he had 14 in this one, and he's getting passing down work. Raheem Blackshear's even factoring in. Now, that said, Donta Foreman is still he still touched the ball. He still had 21 carries and 1 target this week. So it's not like his workload, like he's not getting a full workload. He still is, but Chuba Hubbard is also taking a significant snap share, touch share. Now, DJ Moore, wide receiver, suffered a non-specific knee sprain. We don't know what the deal is. It's just listed as non-specific. That's fine, though. Adam has us covered in the injury index where he lists wide receivers miss 2.0 games on average due to non-specific knee sprains. So I think that DJ Moore is going to be out. I think Donta Foreman is going to get a ton of touches, but I think that Chuba Hubbard is going to factor in the short area passing game. What to do with the wide receivers? Laviska Shenault has been playing small snap shares, but he has been extremely efficient on a per route basis when he's out there. So like as a target earner, as a yardage producer. So I think it's that Laviska Shenault might be the preferred guy in this wide receiver room. I considered actually writing up Shi Smith in an article last week, but I didn't pull the trigger on it. I think he might have had a touchdown called back. And Shi Smith, Terrace Marshall, they've had a bigger role. They haven't been doing a ton with it. Shenault is he's got the draft profile. It's tough. If you're desperate at receiver, I think you should throw a dart on one of these guys. I would go Laviska, but I'm chasing upside there. Terrace Marshall's probably the safer play. If you had priors with Shi Smith, I guess you go with him. But I expect DJ Moore to miss some time. Kenneth Walker, so per Jeff Mueller, is just dealing with swelling and pain. He doesn't think he's actually that right now there's a mechanical issue at play, or at least that's not the primary concern. So Tony Jones, he was a big old flop. Travis Homer, I don't think he did anything either. I think Kenneth Walker, they're playing on Thursday, which is really too bad. I think Kenneth Walker can play. I think that they can treat it if it's just inflammation, but we won't know. Homer would be the guy that I prefer because DJ Dallas he had a high ankle sprain. So I don't think he's anywhere close to coming back. I think it's running backs miss an average of 3.8 games with 3.1 with high ankle sprains. So I think if it's not Walker, then I'd prefer Homer, but might be a little bit ugly. Tampa Bay Buccaneers 7 at San Francisco 49ers 35. Deebo Samuel evidently suffered just an MCL sprain and an ankle sprain, like a low ankle sprain inversion, not a high ankle sprain, which is crazy, weird, and bizarre, but he did. So, hey, great. That's awesome. Still, MCL sprains typically result in 3.1 games missed on average per Adams injury index. So I don't think that Deebo is going to play this week. I broke down the San Francisco 49ers pass game as a whole. I broke down Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle. You guys don't need me to tell you Christian McCaffrey is awesome. I broke those guys down over at the 33rd team in the 5 Things We Learned article. So check that out for all the specifics there. But the broad takeaways are that I think Brandon Ayuk is a safe wide receiver 2. I think George Kittle is going to push for top 5. And I know, hasn't he already been there? No, he hasn't. And he's not blocking. It's not because he's blocking. He's running a ton of routes. But I think I think he should be able to get there now with Debo out. Brock Purdy, a really funny quarterback, not athletic, runs a lot, really inefficient, but he runs around the goal line. That's good. I compared his passing data to all of the week 14 quarterbacks. You can go look at that there. The TLDR version is basically just that he played really well as a passer. He continued his rushing thing where I think he averaged 1.5 yards per carry. He averaged like 3.2 in college. It's really bad. But he scored a touchdown on the ground. The guy can play. The oblique injury that he suffered, I think he should be able to go this week. But it's something to note. Jordan Mason is the clear-cut number 2 running back. Hopefully you all held onto him. I know it's been a long season, but he's getting run now. Like, they benched all the starters in the fourth quarter because they were just putting the hurt on Tampa Bay. I went out of order here. So, all right. So anyway, Jordan Mason rostered you need to have him rostered in 100% of leagues. If he is available, you just go do it right now. Because prior to this, with Debo healthy, if Christian McCaffrey were to miss time, then Debo might be getting more rushing work rushing work and basically functioning as like a short area guy. Maybe it's Kittle and they don't throw the running backs, whatever. In the event that Christian McCaffrey misses time now with Debo Samuel sidelined, Jordan Mason is in for just like a monstrous dual threat workload. And yes, they do throw to the backfield. I mean, throw to use check a lot, but anyway, Jordan Mason should be rostered in 100% of 12-team redraft leagues and larger. He needs to be rostered everywhere. Tampa Bay, only notes here, and this is what I'm going to leave you guys with. You can feel comfortable starting both of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers running backs on a weekly basis. Their passing game involvement keeps them going. Mike Evans, I might be ranking him outside the top 24 at the wide receiver position, and that's a huge bummer, but the connection is just more so there with Chris Godwin. Tom Brady is, I mean, the guy just looks like a ghost. He's gaunt. It does not look good. So I think it's just Chris Godwin and the running backs. Cade Otton, maybe in Dynasty, not redraft. So I'll double check that because we've talked about Cade Otton a lot. He's been good on volume, but if he's not getting volume, all right. Yep. That'll do it for us. So hit me up at Miami Dolphins 17 at Los Angeles Chargers 23. Jeff Wilson Jr. suffered a hip injury. Running backs miss 1.8 games on average. I think that could bring Myles Gaskin onto the field in a passing down capacity, which could really actually be fruitful for PPR purposes. But Raheem Mostert has seen passing down work. He maintained a passing down role even when Jeff Wilson Jr. was killing it. Raheem has been difficult to trust because Mike McDaniel is just so damn smart. He understands you don't have to run the ball to be able to have an elite play action passing game. And so they just rocket through the air. So, Mostert will be a matchup based guy. Gaskin, you should roster him, especially in PPR, but like, will you for sure start him this week? I don't know. Like I say, we'll monitor the news. I will be retweeting and tweeting stuff about it. Trust me. Tyreek Hill suffered an ankle injury, is expected to be fine. Don't worry about it. I didn't see anything about Jalen Waddle suffering any type of in-game setbacks. And I can just double check the NBC feed. No, he's good. He the fibula thing, which sounds like he's playing with a stress fracture, but Antonio Gibson did that last year. Also, lastly, this is what I will actually leave you with. Mike Williams is good to go. So Josh Palmer, huge bummer for him, but Mike Williams has beaten the syndesmotic sprain. Good for him. Rooting for him. All right. Follow me at Nic Bodiford, NFL, spelled NICBODIFORD NFL. Follow us all at NerdBall FF on Twitter, and I believe also on Instagram, YouTube. I don't think we have a TikTok. Hit us up with any questions that you may or may not have. But we can help you think of one. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate you listening. Have a good week. We'll talk to you in week 16.